What is wisdom, and where does it come from? Hello, my friends, travelers of the Transcendent Worlds. I am the mysterious stranger, and today I want to talk about crafting a mentor. Mentors in fiction and media, and even just in life, show up constantly. Sometimes the main character has many mentors that they experience and learn different seeds of truth or crumbs of wisdom. And sometimes they only have one to kickstart them into learning on their own throughout their journey or continually coming back to teach them new truths that they didn't see before. And in even rare occasions, sharing the same truths that they've heard before, but that they need to more fully understand. Truly, it is remarkable that the archetype of the mentor has been around since the ancient times of the Greeks, and I would even dare say even before that. Throughout history, the idea of a mentor has been around throughout the ages. It is almost as timeless as the hero and the villain, and even the ones that they save, or the great monsters that they battle. The mentor is a pivotal part in the hero's journey, in the hero's experience, and even in the villain's arc as well. The mentor is often tied with the villain and the hero for different reasons. They often may have known the villain beforehand, and may have even been a part of the villain's alliance for a time, been a friend of theirs or a companion of some kind, maybe even lovers before. It varies across the board depending on the story. But either way, mentors are all throughout our lives. From our parents, grandparents, to uncles and aunts, any family member often older than us, even siblings, to people in the world, politicians, celebrities, idols, and legends who have walked and paved the way for other people to follow, and in many cases as well, bosses, friends that we have nearby in school or in work. They're all over the place. We often have many. There are especially few that we tend to flock towards the most for truths of wisdom. And there are four that I felt are the best at showing forth wisdom. I could have chosen a lot because there are certainly a lot of mentors in fiction that display wisdom greatly. But I felt that these four were a good jumping off point for the continuation of these videos, because this won't be the last that we'll be discussing on how to craft a mentor. Let's begin. The first thing we need to understand is that wisdom itself comes from a place of understanding oneself. And how do you understand oneself better if not to understand peace? Master Oogway sought to understand himself. He created the greatest lessons and teachings about Kung Fu by doing this. Master Oogway came from a life as a general, or a great warrior, a part of many wars. In a little bit of his backstory, we learned that during great wars fought in China, that Master Oogway was a brash young man who sought out war. He was great friends with Kai, who was another fellow warrior, and over time, it came to bite them in the butt. Master Oogway was wounded. Kai took him to a sacred village in the mountains, and they found the pandas, who then taught them the power of Chi. They used this to heal Master Oogway, and Master Oogway was invested in this key power. Kai was too, but for different reasons. Master Oogway began to understand that the ways he was a part of were no longer serving him, while Kai did not realize this truth. Something about wisdom and writing it into characters is that understanding that mentors have learned from past mistakes, but they also have come to understand themselves. After Oogway banished Kai into the spirit world, he sought looking for answers, and this led him to crafting Kung Fu. And not only that, Master Oogway began a self-understanding journey to understand inner peace, and as well Chi itself. And once he entered into the spirit world and did it of his own volition, he came to his own great peace. and was one with Chi. But Master Oogway teaches us a valuable lesson, specifically in his wise quote. When Po was very worried about what to do with his life, especially not knowing if he should pursue being a dragon warrior and heed the instruction of Master Oogway and should return to making noodles, Master Oogway said to him, "Quit, don't quit. Noodles, no noodles. You are too concerned what was and what will be." There's a saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. Wisdom comes from understanding that nothing is truly in our grasp. We can't control everything, but we can control what we decide to do in the time that is given to us. Crafting characters who are wise also takes understanding their experience. Everyone has been through something, and that often gives kernels of experience that can either end up as just knowledge or be refined into wisdom. Uncle Iroh certainly understood this best. He had served as a general for the Fire Nation for years, was brother to Fire Lord Ozai, he was a prince, he had much power, but for a guy who was fighting all these wars and was a respected general of combat and strategy, many people were surprised that he let all of that down. He was not only dishonorably discharged by his brother, but he also chose to not pursue after it. Throughout the entirety of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the show, we learn that he chooses a lot of the time to live a life of peace with him and his tea and his games of White Lotus. And it's so interesting to me because Uncle Iroh teaches us something that is incredibly important about what it means to be wise. It requires experience. Experience not only gives perspective, but it also allows one to understand and learn from their past mistakes. Uncle Iroh teaches constantly to his nephew Zuko that there are so many things that he can do with his life, and that pulling wisdom from everyone else and gaining a better perspective by understanding where people come from grants one the eyes to see what even the most powerful are blind to. Something Uncle Iroh says, I think, is also an understanding of what great wisdom is. In the darkest times, hope is something you give yourself. That is the meaning of inner strength. Once again, we see the theme that understanding not only oneself, but also giving yourself the fire to move on is the power of wisdom. Wisdom requires self to be strong enough to not be the victim, but the victor of life. Often the mentor is the one who is paving the way and has walked the road that the hero is now walking, and understands what it means. That's why they have such great abilities. They often have powerful objects to their side, or they just simply can outdo the villain constantly and have power over the villain because they've already walked that path. They understand where it leads, and they now can serve as a mentor, a friend, and a helper to the hero. But going through experience is hard, and living up to principles like that is even harder. Obi-Wan had suffered greatly. We're talking about a guy who literally lost his master in front of him. He lost his greatest love, and he also was betrayed and lost his own apprentice, who is also his brother and his closest friend, to the dark side, and saw many of his own friends and fellow Jedi masters be killed and slaughtered. And he had Sith constantly hunt him down, torture him, beat him up, and try to force him to be seduced into the dark side. What is key about wisdom is that you don't always have to fall into the evil path. But it doesn't mean you're perfect. Obi-Wan surely gets depressed. He's not incredibly always the person who takes initiative. Some of his choices can be a bit rigid. But that's the thing, is that wisdom is not learned off the bat. When crafting your character to be wise, you have to understand where they came from. Understand their origin. Understand that they walked the path of the hero once. Obi-Wan is the greatest example of this. We see his whole arc before he became the mentor and Jedi Master who helped train Luke Skywalker, and handed him off later to Yoda, who is someone we'll talk about in another video. Obi-Wan is someone who greatly endured much, and he earned the privilege later on. Something that the wisest people gain is wisdom. It's the reward of living their truth. And we learn from Obi-Wan, from his quote, that he says, "If you define yourself by your power to take life, your desire to dominate, to possess, then you have nothing." The lesson learned by many wise mentors is that evil never rewards those who seek it. Power, fame, pride, these are the things that are temporary and do not last long. Things that do are the things that an even greater mentor once taught. In Tales of the Verse Season 2, I wrote a character called the Master, the architect of the ether. Being the lord and sole proprietor of the universe of the ether, he guides and teaches the main character, Horus. Horus encounters many people with different thoughts and ideas of wisdom throughout the series. The Master specifically teaches a lot about this. He teaches some key principles, but one that I think is greatest of all to mention here is what he says to Horus, and Horus realizes at the end of his journey. He says, "Your skills and powers will improve in time, but what you call failure, I've come to know as growth. The more you learn to trust me, the more you'll come to realize you're already beginning to succeed." Truly, having perspective is also what you need to write into your wise mentors. And there's a lot of wisdom that the Master has shared to many characters throughout the ether. But that is something for another time. If you would like to know more of the vast wisdom the Master has to offer, consider checking out my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description, and you'll be able to understand much more of the wise things in the Transcendent Worlds. The Master teaches us that it is all about perspective. The greatest mentors teach us that wisdom is knowledge refined. It is the choice to take what you've learned and to truly learn from it. So many struggle, both in fiction and the real world, because wisdom is sometimes hard for some people to grasp. But true wisdom comes not just from experience, not just from perspective. It comes from a choice. A choice to do better, to choose better, to become better. Craft your character with true wisdom. Have them teach truth. The weakest storytellers seek for the low-hanging fruit of wisdom. Seek simply for the simple truths of life. These will make your mentor an amazing and an impressive and profound character indeed. Thank you, travelers of the verse, for watching this video of crafting characters, especially crafting mentors. It's awesome working on these videos, and I've been so grateful to be able to have your support. And indeed, we are starting a Patreon. Yes, a Patreon for the Transcendent Worlds. There will be a link in the description for you to follow, and there will also be a link on the channel. This is the place where you'll be able to be a part of a massive push in what the Transcendent Worlds will be focusing on and how it gets crafted. There are already a lot of things I've already put in that are crafted, but you guys will be able to have your hand in helping forge the Transcendent Worlds. My friends, I love you all, and stay tuned for more content soon to come on the other side of the gates.